Alright, hello everyone. In this video, I'll be giving my thoughts on power weapons. This mostly be talking about power swords, but power swords, power axes, they're the same things in 40k. They're just called power weapons. So, give me my thoughts on them. Now, as a quick disclaimer, I won't be talking about accursed weapons because they're just power weapons with a different name. They're the same strength, same AP, same damage. The same thing applies to paired power and accursed weapons. They're effectively very similar to power weapons, with the big differences, to my knowledge, being, and from my experience being, they have 2 more attacks on average, and they have the twin linked keyword. Beyond that, they're the same AP, same damage type, so not all that substantially different. They're still power weapons. I also won't be bringing up any unique character weapons, so this includes weapons like the Emperor's Champion's Black Sword, or Abaddon's Demon Sword, I believe. I don't remember the name of it, but I won't be bringing up any character specific profiles. Now, my overall thoughts on power swords are that they look like long swords and great swords. Okay, cool, right? You know, you have your traditional, more knightly looking power weapons or power axes, whatever have you. Looks cool. Nothing wrong with that. In terms of their effectiveness in combat, like on the tabletop, they are very effective in melee. I would hearken them to being the heavy bolter equivalent for melee weapons. And that sounds funny when you think about it and a little insulting, but when you give it some thought, it actually makes some level of sense. If bolt guns and bolt rifles are strength 4 AP1 or AP0 weapons that do 1 damage, and the heavy bolter is 1 higher strength and does 1 more damage, well, compare the chain sword to the power sword or power weapon. Chain swords are strength 4 AP-1 damage 1 weapons, whereas power swords are strength 5 AP-2 damage 1 weapons. Yeah, they do less damage, but they're more likely to punch up into something and more likely to actually get wounds through, even if they do the same damage. It's technically not that different from a heavy bolter compared to a bolt gun or bolt rifle. With regards to my experience using power weapons in 40k, in all of my Chaos Space Marine games, I have power weapons used. I always run Chosen. Currently, I run 3 units of Chosen, 2 5-mans and 1 10-man led by Fabius Bile. But in all of my games of Chaos Space Marines, and in the few Space Marine games I've used power weapons, they have always been pretty solid melee weapon options, even when I'm throwing this, that unit of Chosen into something that, like, they shouldn't be melee fighting with these weapons. Like, fighting 10 Chosen fighting a Gargant or a Gorkanaut in melee combat, that's kind of ambitious, but we'll see where it goes. In terms of their portrayal in other media, whether this be like games like Dark Tide or Space Marine 2, power swords are smooth. They're smooth, they sound great for the most part, especially in Dark Tide's case. In terms of using them, they're very satisfying. Once again, smooth, like they just will cut and cleave through things. Space Marine 2 is probably the biggest example of, I wish it was more like Dark Tide, with the fluidness of and the satisfaction of just cutting through something like butter with a power sword. But overall, with how they're represented in other media, pretty solid and no real complaints. Now, for my criticisms of the power swords, or power weapons, they basically are just normal long swords, great swords, or axes. In terms of when you look at a power sword, beyond the little power generator battery plus coils that run from it, a power sword just looks like a long sword, or a power axe looks like an axe, right? So, like, in terms of their looks, like, yeah, some of them can be very fanciful, very like gaudy and like, ooh, like that's very, very fancy, but so can real life long swords or great swords. With comparisons to other things and from other weapons in other media, the power weapon as a whole is just, it's 40k's equivalent of the Halo energy sword, right? It's taking the concept of a melee weapon with an electromagnetic field of some kind that allows said weapon to be able to cut through most, if not all, physical armor. In the case of Halo, it's a plasma emission that is then shaped via a magnetic energy field, and that is how it works. In 40K's case, it's you take a sword and you have the same general technology, just kind of sheathe the blade, giving it its shape, and then this is the layman's dumbed down, not getting into the nitty gritty of it, but they're basically the same, very very much the same thing. The same have a very same or similar effect in terms of what you'd want them to do practically. Another point of criticism, this is more of like a criticism of Chaos Terminators than it is of Power Swords, but they are connected. Chaos Terminators shouldn't be used to have at least one Power Sword. They should be like standard Terminators, where they can have all Power Fists, or they can have Power Swords, or they can have Chain Fists. It'd be cool, but it's just a little tiny criticism there. But with that, guys, that'll be the end of my thoughts, my opinions, and one kind of, or my minor criticisms of power weapons. So feel free to comment down below what your thoughts are on the power weapons and accursed weapons. What kind of experiences have you had running around with units that use power weapons? I like Chosen or Chthonian Berserks of the Votann, or whatever units in Space Marines. Feel free to let me know down in the comments. You can also open that up to characters like the Emperor's Champion or Abaddon. Feel free to say something about it. But with that, guys, that'll be all from me. Thank you all for watching and or listening, and I hope you have a great time wherever you may find yourself, whether you're studying, gaming, watching YouTube, or trying to go to sleep. Hope you're having a great time, and if things haven't been going so well, I hope things can turn around and be better for you. But until the next time, guys, I'll see you next time. Peace.